today about a really important relationship issue that I think is is just worthy of discussion. And I know a lot of you were asking us about this topic, so we love to talk about the things that you're interested in. So if you're talking about it, we like to talk about it. And so to begin the discussion, first of all, I want to ask you all this question. Give me a yes or no in the chat if you saw this post. Somebody put it on social media. It went kind of viral. So that made it definitely conversation worthy, and it was an interesting discussion. It says here, and this is from someone's thoughts of a mature man, or sorry, thoughts of an amateur man, or is it a mature man? Sorry, a mature man. Okay, he's not an amateur man; he's a mature man. Okay, very big difference there. He's a professional man, and he's a mature man. He says a man has to love you more than you love him for a relationship to work. Now, I don't know anything about the brother who shared this quote. I don't know what his background is. I don't know what his experience is. Most of us are drawing on some sort of experience. So I've got a bunch of experts today and a bunch of really smart people that are going to help us dissect this. And so what I'm going to do is actually just jump in and ask everybody in here, do you agree with that statement? Give me a yes or no in the chat if you agree with that statement. And then I'm going to ask every panelist. We're going to go panelist by panelist to ask each panelist to say yes or no and why, and give me kind of a why, because I'm really curious. Okay, let's see here. I see somebody says that's nonsense. Someone says it's the opposite, actually. Hannah says that's the truth. Mark says idiotic. Hannah says yes. Okay, Andrea just says hello. How you doing, Andrea? Everybody say hi to Andrea. Dominic says no. All right. So without further ado, let me jump in and let me just start with I will start with Coach Gene and Dr. Dula. I'm going to put you out on the solo screen. So what do you think to this question? Does he have to love you more than she loves him in order for the relationship to work? And if so, why?
Yeah. Okay. Dr. Boyce, thanks for having us on. So yeah, we're thinking about it, when we consider, at least myself, consider relationships, we're thinking of it not from the percentage of 50%, 50%. I think that people should come in 100%, 100%, with a relationship for it to work. And when you're talking about love and you're basing it on feelings, then sometimes those expectations can get missed. And so I think that, we should look at it, relationships coming more from a place of, accountability and agreement more than just feelings, because you can miss the expectations. Dr. Dula.
And I would say, we've been together married almost 27 years, and we've known each other about 30 since college. And okay, so then what is love? What does that look like? Because what I thought love was when I was 19 and 20 and 21, when I knew him, I met him, is not the same thing now. It's a thing that's always going to need to be adjusted in some type of way. So it seems like it's kind of one-dimensional, what that love thing is. And sometimes you just don't know what would be required to show your love until you get there.
Okay. All right. So excellent point. All right. So I'm going to jump over to Miss Rebecca Samuels. Rebecca is the CEO of Pythagoras LLC, a really smart Black woman, has a lot of really good opinions. So Rebecca, do you agree with that statement? Yes or no? I'm going to read it again just so everybody that just came in. A man has to love you more than you love him for a relationship to work. Yes or no, and why?
Okay, I guess I'll be the devil today. I think it is a true statement. And the reason why is because we've all heard of that quote that whatever you give a woman, she multiplies it. So I really feel like, speaking for the good women in the room, that if a man pours love into me, someone that I want to be with, someone that I do love as well, I'm going to give him back triple fold whatever he gives to me. So in that case, I do believe that's the way to go.
Okay, so Rebecca has a lot of love to give, and she triples it. It's like those 401k plans where they match your contribution. So, Rebecca's an accountant, and she's very practical. So I'm sure that goes into the process. Okay, so Dr. Alicia, who I happen to be in a relationship with, what do you think about that statement? Do you agree with that statement? Yes or no? If so, why? If not, why not?
Yeah, so I think what the statement is saying is that in order for a relationship to work, a man has to have an overwhelming love for a woman above and beyond her love for him. And that when that happens, that's going to carry the relationship and make the relationship sustainable. I'm not certain that that's necessarily what it takes to keep a relationship going long term. Long term, you're going to need commitment and you're going to need trust for a relationship to continue long term. Maybe at the beginning, if he like sees a woman and he falls in love with her and at first sight and he walks up to her, that kind of romantic sort of thing where a man kind of pursues the woman that he wants, that part I can understand. But in terms of sustainability, like that's what's going to carry the relationship. I feel like Mr. Mature may not be very mature in that comment, because it really is, like the gentleman said before, it does take 100% from both couples and both people, and that's what keeps it sustainable. And so commitment is when you're in it for the long haul, you're loyal to each other, you prefer to be with each other above and beyond anybody else that may come past you. And having that trust means that you have each other's back, that you're doing things with the best interest of your partner at heart. And that is what's going to be sustainable.
Okay. All right. So, Miss Trey Kearney, and by the way, if anybody, I know, wait, Adrian dropped out again. Okay. Let me pull him back in. Okay. There we go. All right. So, if you drop out, and you're in the backstage and I don't catch you, you can wave or something. I'll see you. Okay. So, by the way, so everybody who's watching, the experts, I didn't get a chance to ask, websites and books and things like that. So for everybody in here, if you have a book or something you'd like to know about, you mentioned the book. I know Trey, I know you've got a lot of stuff out there. So Trey Kearney, I'm gonna go to you next. Do you agree with that statement? If so, why? If not, why not?
No, I totally don't agree with that statement. I think a man has to love himself in order for a relationship to be sustained. We have a lot of failed relationships because men aren't healed, so they don't have the capability of loving a woman for long term. And likewise, I think women have to love themselves to maintain relationships. There's too many of us that are dependent on the other person to maintain a relationship. One whole man and one whole woman equals one healthy relationship. And for us to say that a man has to love a woman more for the relationship to work, I don't think that's a true fact. I just think it's so many men that have issues that are not addressed because men should just chuck it up and men just need to do what they need to do and they should be emotionless and all this other things. But I think a lot of men don't know how to love themselves. So how could they love a woman fully?
Interesting. So, so Adrian, and now when I hear Trey's comment, my thought is when she says men need to learn how to love themselves, I'd be curious to, and I want you to answer the question for sure. And I know you got background in this, but I'm always thinking about this. How do I show that I love myself? I think I love myself. I think I know how to take care of myself. I'm a pretty happy person. So what are your thoughts on that? When just that whole men have to learn to love themselves. Now, mind you, I assume she's also saying women as well, right? I think she did say that. Right. But Adrian, give me your thoughts on just all of this that you've been hearing.
Loving yourself is his ability to set boundaries, know what he wants out of life and be in pursuit of those goals, knowing how to take care of you. Remember, we have those 7 things that we should all be aspiring for: financial, spiritual, emotional, what it means to have family and build legacy. So a man who is mature, who's loving himself, is focused in those areas, being accountable, working on himself, spirit, soul, body, and mind type of thing. So I think that's a very good statement. As far as the whole, a man needs to love her more than, no. So that's a big resounding no, because I think for a couple reasons. One, it speaks more so to me to the insecurities of women and them trying to ensure themselves, right? Because in a lot of instances, women view men as insurance policies. They want to insure their life with the man. So in order for that to happen, she needs him to love him more than she loves him. And then she can buy into that. I think the long-term effects of that is we keep on undermining the emotions of men. Men want to be loved. Men want to be respected. Men want the same emotional exchange that women do. So we just have to find a better way to get to it. But I definitely don't think that's an accurate statement at all.
Okay. All right. And okay. So last but certainly not least, Mr. John Harris. So I'm glad we got some men, a nice balance of men and women to provide perspective. So John, when you heard that statement, in your experience and just in your view, what do you think about that?
Well, to be honest, I kind of threw up in my mouth a little bit. So that's a resounding no. Check this out. Expecting a man to love a woman more and for that relationship to work is like an idiotic statement to me, especially considering that 70% of the divorces in this country are initiated by the women. And then you look at the fact that when they do have a divorce, a man can love a woman to death, and that's not going to stop her from leaving that relationship. I mean, and then also we have to look at what was the reason, what is the real reason these two people are joining together anyway? Is it because of love? Is it a situationship? Is it for financial security? Is it just to have in-house sex? It all depends on what they're getting married for anyway. So it really is based on both partners, both of their intent and their intent with the relationship.
Okay. So John says intent. That's really interesting. I thought about that statement and I was trying to process that, right? And I was thinking, Coach Jean, I was thinking about the fact that, I as a man, I'm not an expert in terms of having studied relationships the way Alicia has, right? But as a man, I'm pretty good at that, and I kind of know a couple things about that. I can say that that when I met her, I was really enamored with her, and I was really excited about a relationship with her. And what I have found in my own life, without telling on myself, is that when I really am excited about a situation, I tend to be on my very, very, very best behavior. Meaning that, whatever the best is, like Anita Baker said, giving you the best that I got. Well, not everybody's going to give you the best that they got. Some people are going to give you the worst that they got. That's why I don't believe that there's such a thing as a good man or a bad man. It's which type of man did you get that day? And it's like if you go in the store, sometimes I'll drop $3,000 on something. Sometimes I'll get mad because you charge me $8, right? It depends on what I want at that time and how I view whatever it is that whatever exchange I'm seeking to make, right? So do you think that it's possible that that scenarios where the man is really, 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 really in love with the woman, and let's say she loves him too, and Rebecca, because Rebecca mentioned her matching program, her matching funds program, where she says, whatever you give me, I'm gonna give it back. And there are a lot of people that do that. And I'm just shooting from the hip on this, but I feel like women are just a little better at that. Not that men can't be great in our own way, but there are some things I think women and men do better than the other. I do believe that. I don't believe we're the same. What do you think about that? When you're talking about commitment and men just kind of being on their best behavior, and you compare that to scenarios where men are not on their best behavior, do you think that there's some benefit or some sort of, let's say someone's looking for security. They're thinking, I don't want this to end, so I want to find somebody who really wants to be here. Like you're hiring somebody for a job. I really need to know that you want to be here. If you don't want to be here, then you should go. Do you think there's any sort of practical logic behind that sort of statement?
Dr. Boyce, just like what Dr. Alicia was saying, just thinking when me and Andrea started, I wouldn't say I was head over heels. I grew head over heels, fell in love. But after a while, the emotion, roller coaster, will take a toll. And so at WeBuildLegacy.com, we deal with, the 4 pillars of relationship or building legacy, which is partnership, mutual respect, accountability, and I missed one, right?
Yep, you said the agreement.
Partnership,
mutual respect,
agreement, and accountability. Because with the emotion, you're doomed to find yourself, going back and forth, missing out, on expectations. Because I can only read so much, she can only read so much. But at the end of the day, what did we agree upon?
And to me, if he could keep what he said he agreed to me to do, I'll feel like that's love. If he said, I'll do this for you, we agreed to this. You kept the agreement. And if there needed to be an accountability thing, and he was like, oh, you know what? You're right. I got it. And he shows up for that. Oh, I believe you love me.
Yeah, because in 27 years, I missed the mark a whole lot.
No, you don't.
Still missing the mark.
No, you don't.
Still missing the mark.
No, you don't.
Well, I want to ask this question. I'm gonna leave this wide open, and if I don't get your chance to make your comment, just do like this or something. That way I don't miss anybody. But you know, and I like what Coach Jean was mentioning. You know, that being honest about missing the mark. Like we all miss the mark sometimes. But a lot of times, you know, it seems to me that there are so many scenarios where I will see examples where we're talking about what's wrong with men, but I don't always hear a lot of women say, you know, I miss the mark a lot, or I do a lot of things wrong. But a lot of times, because it's like, especially when you talk about that thing like infidelity, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say, men are usually the ones who are caught in that category as opposed to women. Not that women don't do it though. We know women do it. Right, because because women are there when men are having sex. Women are usually there, so we know what's going on. But they compare it to like dogs and cats. You know, they say that the cat covers the shit up a little bit better. Right? So I'd be curious to know what y'all think about that in terms of just kind of really thinking about that. When you're trying to make relationships work, and why do I think I keep hearing more often that men are the ones saying, yeah, I messed up. Yeah, I'm not so good. And you don't hear that as much on the female side. I don't really see as much accountability being pushed on that end, but maybe I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong, please.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody?
I want to address two things. I want to go back. I'm going to address this, but I want to go back to the commitment thing. I think part of the challenge that we have in relationships when we talk about women wanting the man to love her more and this whole thing of commitment is it's a part of our socialization process. Women are socialized into wanting to see marriage as a goal for them to achieve. It's a part of their rites of passage. And it is for men as well. But I think women hold on to that a lot more because they're socialized from very young to want. I mean, I have a 9-year-old daughter. She's already talking about getting married. Where did you get that from? Okay. Make it make sense. And so young girls move into that. I think we have all of the Disney movies and the things that contribute to that, right? But I think the problem where women lose their footing is women tend to believe that because they are more interested in the commitment of a relationship, that they are prepared for the relationship. They're just more committed to the idea of commitment, but it doesn't mean that they have the other skill sets that sustains a relationship. And I think men get a bad rep because men are less committal in those early stages, right? Later on, eventually a man says, hey, I want to settle down. I want to have a relationship. I want to be committed. But women tend to reach that space, it appears, sooner. So they call men immature because they're not there yet. Men are just simply more honest about where they are in their process than women are. And a lot of that might be biological because women tend to want to have their children earlier. Their clock is ticking, but men mature. Their maturation process is on a different timeline, not less mature or more mature, just simply on a different timeline than women. And I think that's where men and women miss, and we get the flack for it. But women are just more committed to commitment a lot sooner than we are.
Wow. Trey, I can see your body language. Like you have something to say to that. Go ahead, Trey.
I just want to say, he said men are more honest. No, if men were more honest, we wouldn't get into a lot of situations that we get into because men tend to think that women can't handle the truth. So a lot of men stay in relationships way too long. And I'm not saying that the women, I've learned to get off the roller coaster ride. When you show me who you are, I'm out. But I'm 51 years old. It took me a long time to get there to see and say, oh, this is not where it's going. It's not in the forecast. So if it's not in the forecast, I bounce. I heard what you said. But so many men don't do that. So many men leave women in limbo, and they will go smoke her out to not treat her nice anymore, or start not listening to her, or start not paying attention until she just can't take anymore. I just think, and this is just my opinion, if more men were honest to say that, I just can't do this with you. Like, I thought we was cool. I thought I liked you. Now I don't. I mean, the truth hurts, but women can heal from the truth. And men have this, sometimes, maybe it's ego. You could tell me, I don't know all the men on the panel, of I don't want to be the bad guy. You're going to be the bad guy either way, whether you tell me the truth and say, I don't like you no more, Trey. I ain't feeling you like that. Or if you stick around and string me along and damage me for the next man. But I don't think men are open and honest. I think that they sugarcoat and smoke screen, and then they feel there's some level of honesty when a woman walks out because she just can't take anymore.
Yeah,
Wow.
but I think what you're talking about is during the process of the relationship. But when we go back to that meme of a man needs to love more, in that beginning stages, the question becomes, what's driving that motivation to push for these relationships, right? And I think that's where you get the two different motivations and different definitions around that word commitment.
Right.
I'm gonna ask y'all a question. I'm gonna throw again. I'm just gonna throw out a bunch of statements. Some of them might be stupid, but I don't care. Jesus is telling me to say these things, so I'm going to do it. I believe that women grow up wanting marriage more than men. I do not believe that men, when I sit with my boys and we're talking about what we want and what we dream about and fantasize about, we're not opening up bride and groom magazines, talk about how wonderful our wedding day is going to be. I used to be really confused when I would see women that would go to weddings and like they would cry or get horny or whatever reaction. It didn't make sense. I was like, weddings are boring. Weddings, what? So here's my logic. Again, I'm just being straight logical on this. Probably too logical. I always felt that if you're trying to get somebody to do something that you want to do, but they don't necessarily want to do it as much as you do. They may like you, but may not want to do it as much as you. Like, let's say sex. Let's flip it to sex, right? Women and men both love sex, but y'all know that there's a difference in terms of like a man. If you look good, some men will take you right. We can go to the hotel in 10 minutes, right? Like that's just a lot. That's just what you see, right? Not to say women can't do it too. I'm not saying that. I'm saying though that I see it more on one side than the other in my experience. So I was always raised to believe this: if you want a woman to sleep with you, then you have to go above and beyond. She's not like I wouldn't sit around saying, well, why if she wants me to bring her flowers? Well, no, she should be bringing me flowers. No, I shouldn't be taking her to dinner. She should take me to dinner because she's going to enjoy the sex too. Like men don't say stupid stuff like that because then you'll never get none, right? But you flip it, right? So you go ahead. You got your finger up. Go ahead, please, Rebecca.
No, that's the new age men. They actually do say that now. Why am I going to do all of this stuff? You're getting pleasure out of sex just like I am. Literally just had this discussion. They do.
Ooh.
Times have changed.
Okay, all right, to bring me into the 21st century. But I will say that I was raised to believe that if you wanted something from someone or wanted to persuade them in some way, you had to do a little bit more. But I don't hear that with marriage. I kind of hear everyone sort of talk about the 50-50 thing. And I'll just tell you the truth. I didn't grow up wanting to be married, so if I didn't feel like it was really going to make my life better, I wasn't going to do it. It wasn't like I was sitting there saying, oh gosh, I'm 30 years old. I got to get married soon. My clock is ticking. I never had that conversation with myself. So do you think that maybe there is kind of this thing to say, going back to that point, that maybe it's better he loves you a little bit more than you love him, that maybe the guy who really is into you, like super into you, is going to be that guy who's like, okay, I'm willing to do this with you because I just think it's so great to be with you. Like why? Tell me why that's a crazy statement, please.
Okay, can I jump in for a second?
Yes,
I mean, I know you said this is what men say when they're around each other. And I'm just going to tell you what men say when they're in my office and there's nobody else around. Men do want to be admired. They want to be appreciated. They really want to be in a relationship where they feel supported. They want to make themselves vulnerable to a woman. They really do want to have that deep connection and they want to have that relationship, but they're scared. They're scared that they don't trust themselves, that they're going to get their heart broken, that they're going to get all their money taken away, that they're going to be humiliated. And so fear is what holds a lot of men back. But, I've had men cry in my office because of what a woman has done, or for the fact that they want to even tell their partner that they're sorry for something that they did. And all this ego and all this other stuff holds them back. So a lot of men are conditioned when they're around other men to just say what they think other men want to hear. But men want love and commitment just as much as women do.
Right.
Yes.
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that at all. I think it's a matter of the right situation, right? Like it seems to me that it's like when mature men tell each other that you're getting married, usually the conversations I see are like, wow, you sure you're ready for that? And he'll be like, yeah, man, she's really the one. You're like, oh, well, congratulations, you found the one, right? But in terms of just sort of congratulating you just because you got married, I don't see that as much. Like the marriage in itself is not the point of celebration. It's the fact that you met someone that you love enough that you're willing to give away. Like, especially you talking about men with options. You know, like I know guys, NFL guys, movie stars, millionaires, who are like, I got a lot of women I know, but this is the one I picked above and beyond everyone else. And that I think is a different trade-off than the guy who, has nothing else to do. I don't know. What do y'all think? I mean, do you think that it matters if the guy has options or not? I remember what was it? I think it was Chris Rock. Remember, tell me what you think about that statement. Remember when Chris Rock said, men are only as faithful as their options. Like, why was that an offensive statement? And tell me what you think about that statement and why it was offensive. I'm sure someone's offended by that statement. I'd like to know what you thought of it. Anybody, please.
I'm not offended. Listen, I'm just going to say this. I have a pledge that I just launched today for Women's History Month, #NoSideChicken, where I'm encouraging women to honor, guard, and respect each other's relationships so that we can, my mission is to get 1 million women to honor the pledge. A lot of the problems that we have as women is that the fact that we allow ourselves to be options. And we complain about men and say men are dogs and men cheat, and men do this and men do that. But who they doing it with? One of us. Yeah. And we expect men to respect us when we don't respect each other. We're never going to get the respect that we deserve or the respect that we earn if we don't show up for each other to say, I'm not going to sleep with somebody else's man. So why would a man respect any woman, or why would they not try to have other options if we continue to be options? Men go from one woman have a kid to a side chick have another kid, to another chick have another kid. So it's 3 women who are single mothers based on the fact that we were willing to sleep with each other's men, but then we complaining about the men when we are enabling them to do these things. If we said, no, I'm not sleeping with you, you got a girl, what? I know so many women these are the women I talk to. I talk to women, the wife and the side chick, who knew a man was committed and still talk to him. I said, that says nothing. Well, he's the one that's committed. I said, what does that say about you, that you would make yourself second? So we have to look at that statement as men are as committed as the options they have. Why wouldn't? If we all can have our cake and eat it too, I mean, why wouldn't we? Women I did it. Like I said, I had a husband and a boyfriend for many years because it was as good as my options were until somebody gets tired and gets off the roller coaster ride, which was me with the man I cheated with, because he cheated over and over again. So I had to make a decision to get off the roller coaster ride because I wasn't going to be an option. So we have to stop as women being the options to men. And then the infidelity problem we'll probably never see it go away in our lifetime. But if we follow the rule to honor, guard, and respect each other's relationships as women, we wouldn't have this problem.
Okay, so no side chicken. All right. Well, I like chicken, but not side chicken.
No.
All right. So I see John has his finger up. So since I haven't heard from you in a while, John, I'll let you go in, and then Coach Gene and his wonderful wife. You two are next. Go ahead, John.
Well, I have a couple things to say very quickly. One is I think people are only as faithful as their options. Because if you look at today's the way today's set up with the OnlyFans culture and the hot girl summer and things like that, these women are acting just as reckless as men are purported to act.
Yep.
And now, this is what I'm going to tell you just for a moment of transparency. I've been wanting to get married since I was the age of 6.
Oh.
Wow.
And that's because I was taught that being a man and manhood is about being able to care for your family and build on your legacy. So it's like that's what I have been preparing myself for. So it's kind of hard to use blanket statements to say men this or women that when I think it's just a people thing. It's not a man or woman thing. It's a people thing, and the way we interact with each other has definitely changed in recent history.
Okay. All right. Excellent points. Okay. So Now, Coach Jean and is it Dr. Dula?
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Dula and Coach Jean, please.
Can I start? Okay, so I was really enjoying what Dr. Leisha said, and then John just spoke about when he wanted, he said, I've been wanting to get married since whenever. We only have sons. We have 26, 24, 18,
19.
how old they are, I don't know.
19.
Something, right. And the oldest, used to
7 years old.
7 years old, wrote a song on his own about
his wedding song.
I'm gonna sing this to my wife, like Dr. Leisha said, we have our sons, these grown men, we have watched them they would call or they would come home. One of them just was like, Mom, can I just come home to recenter? And all of these things are about what girls, young women have done. Ma, I know she's lying. This person just said this. Devastated. Here we are, we work all these years, we hear all the comments about young men, men this and that. We teach them how to use their words. So we're like, okay, somebody's gonna know how to get to men that know how to talk. We try to emulate what a relationship that's healthy can look like. And that does not keep them from going out there and being hurt, just like a girl would be hurt, a young woman would be hurt. So, I've heard so many comments about what men are and what women are and things like that. But, I always said I just refused to believe that all I was blessed with was things that were broken to come out of my body. That just is not how it is. We are all conditioned. We are conditioned to do things. So I just, we are human,
If I could real quickly, Dr. Boyce, relationships is a skill set, and ultimately we all bring in baggage to the relationship, every one of us. And so it's just a good thing for us to continue to have accountability outside the relationship to come in to assist us with knowing how to connect the dots, and how to draw the same picture at the same time. What is our perspective and perception about how we're going to engage in this relationship, in the end. So, it's just, sometimes, we don't think that we need, relationship education, and it is a skill set, and we need to learn again how we're going to do this together. So.
Yeah, well, I know that everyone in here has some skill and some background in that area, and I agree with you 100%. And let me show you all something real quick. This when Trey was speaking about her movement, No Side Chicken, which makes me hungry now. I want some KFC or something. I saw this. I thought about this article in Vox. Now this chart that's on the screen is a chart that shows I believe the marriage gap growing between white women and black women. And one of the things that they mentioned in here, and I'm gonna read some of this to you all, and I'd love to get the experts on the panel to address this and give us some insights into this. Basically, they said that the gap in marriage, in the percentage of black women married and the percentage of white women married has grown dramatically. They said in 2006, 67% of white women between ages 25 and 54 were married, while only 34% of black women were married, a gap of 33 percentage points. And as Figure 1 shows, the one I just showed you, the racial marriage gap has been increasing. It was 17% in 1980. The differences in family structure between black and white households have been an ongoing concern for policymakers. In his famous report, Moynihan, 1965, saw a clear link between family structure and growing social problems such as poverty and crime among the black population. So one of the things that I want to sort of bring up on that, when you talk about, side chicken, is that it makes you wonder. I remember hearing T.I.'s wife, Tiny, she used the term piece of man. And she said, I'd rather have a piece of a good man than to have no man at all or to have a bad man all to myself. Now, obviously, that doesn't fit, traditional norms of what relationships supposed to look like, right? We understand what monogamy is and all that. But if there's not a one-to-one connection between the number of marriage-eligible black women and the number of marriage-eligible black men, what's the solution? Is it to tell black women to date, guys who are not black? I don't know. I'd be curious to know. Anybody got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that there is enough black men. I mean, that's just what they're trying to tell us. I think that there are a lot of good black men, but they would rather focus on us believing that there are not enough black men so that we would think that we would have to share a man. We don't have to share anything. I believe that, and I'm a spiritual person. I love the Lord. I believe God created enough of everything. I'm an abundant liver. I don't think that there's no shortage of good black men. I just think that we have to, first of all, we have to let down our guard as black women because we've been hurt by the very people who are supposed to protect us. Let's go back to the fact that we've been hurt by our dads. Like a lot of black women have been raised in single parent homes who have not had a black man in their life. So we have our guard up because we feel like the very man that was supposed to protect and provide for us from the beginning did not. So how do I trust some dude that I really don't know if my own father didn't stick around? My father, my biological father, wasn't in my life. He's alive and I know him, and I'm not mad at him. He's not mad at me. We have conversations when I see him, but I had abandonment issues that I didn't even know I had until I started to do the work on myself to say, why would I think that me behaving this way is okay? Why would I think that these behaviors that I have is okay? So I had to go back and do the work for myself, but nobody's going to tell me that there's not enough good black men out here. You just want to shine a light on stuff that you want us to see, that you want the world to think about black men. There are some, I have amazing, and on this panel right here, I have amazing black men around me. It's your perspective of what you see and what you're willing to take in. So we have to really change the narrative, and we have to shift our perspective and look at those men that are around us. Maybe they're not the football player. Maybe they're not the basketball player. Maybe they're not the millionaire, but there are black men who are productive, who make decent salaries, who are good men. But if you want Birkin bags because you're looking at Cardi B and red bottoms, that's your problem. There's hardworking janitors, there's hardworking men who are working at McDonald's, who are managers, who are working their way up to be the owner of McDonald's. It's the perspective that you take. And I'm not saying that we have to necessarily date a man by his potential, but you have to be able to see past certain things. And if you want Birkin bags and red bottoms, then maybe you should buy them yourself, because there are some.
That's not the narrative out here.
But
let's go here. It looks like Adrian's got something he wants to add to that. Go ahead, Adrian.
Not, it's just, unfortunately, that's not the narrative. You know, there's so much conversation about what a man is supposed to bring to the table. I think the intersectionality of the conflict we have in our society is based on this whole construct of provide and protect. I think what Black people are doing is they're trying to play or participate in a system that was never constructed for them to participate, because we've never had the economic means, right? So bingo. This idea of a man is supposed to provide and protect is seen as a one-size-fits-all system that does not work for our community, because the capital is not there. So until men who uphold this notion, but predominantly women who I hear so much of them talking about wanting a man to be able to do these type of things in terms of provision, can begin to come into a more realistic space about what these standards should be, then we're going to continue to have this disruption and people not making the connection that we need. Like 65% of households, like 65% of households have a 2-household income, right? So women are working, right? And then we have an entire feminist movement, women's suffrage movement that has pushed for rights and women to be in the workplace, to be in spaces that they have historically not been in. But then they also want to hold men's feet to the fire to be in a space of provision. So women want to take both sides of that coin. They want the upward mobility of the 21st century, but they want to hold the man fast to the traditional constructs of the 1950s. So that makes for a very disturbed paradigm when it talks about men and women trying to get with each other. It's just not going to be effective. So I think until we have that conversation and settle that part of the issue, we're going to continue to have very distant expectations, which leads to a lower marriage rate.
But like John said though, you can't say women, because you can't put me in that bucket. Like John said, you can't put women and men in different buckets. It's people. So we have this perspective as women where we'll say, well, all men. And then,
I mean, I definitely think we know it's not all right. I mean, but respectively, John. But it's a broad enough, it's a large enough segment of the population that it has a statistical impact, right? And I think that we can say,
if we focus on those women who don't have morals and values, and those women who want Birkin bags and red bottoms, and those women who don't want an honest man that goes to work every day and takes care of the kids and helps change. If we focus on that perspective, or if we focus on all men cheat, then that's what the media is going to continue to shove down our throat. We have to change it around as Black people and say, no, we're going to focus on this group of people. We're going to focus on the women who are not requiring these things, and the men who are not looking for a woman on a stripper's pole. We have to change that narrative ourselves in that perspective. We're all focused on that thing, and we have to change that.
But even in your example, you're still talking about on the outskirts of what that bell curve looked like. Even I'm saying in the middle of our average of 38,000 to 55,000 salary earning, the vast majority of what middle Americans look like in terms of middle class to upper middle class, you still have a very strong social construct about gender roles that works against the Black community, because they're trying to ensure this provision and protection according to this Eurocentric capitalistic construct, which you need money to participate in. So if historically the money's not there for the Black community, the way that it allows us to fully participate, then we have to move different because our money is different.
Okay, Dr. Dula, I see your fingers up.
Yeah,
and then I want to ask Rebecca a question too. Go ahead, Dr. Dula.
Yeah, I was glad you said gender roles, because this is my area of research. I literally went, and when you first mentioned Dr. Boyce, Moynihan with his self and how the households begin to look and shift and all of that, without going into that detail, I would like to just kind of shift this a little more, less of that we all have to be homogenous in this, and more of the context, the one that we come from, the one we challenge couples with all the time and individuals. There will be those who want that traditional whatever. There are going to be those that want that. This is what I want. And there will be men that want to feel that. There will also be those that are more egalitarian. They say, no, we're going to figure this out the way to. And then we always talk about what we call the crown couple, the ones who they say they want one thing, but the man still says, well, no, but I want to look like this. I'm saying all that to say the notion that we have to, we need to come into this one space is unrealistic for the reasons that Adrian just mentioned. Okay, a lot of us are striving, and this is one of the issues I do have when we look at things as a Black community. We're striving. It's like, okay, we're going to get this thing. We're comparing ourselves to individuals, to a society. Yes, we're comparing ourselves to this standard that wasn't even worth trying to meet. And I'll say it this way really quickly. It's like the thing that spurred this for me was when I heard someone say, there was a time when women could stay home and they didn't have to work. Well, for who? Because I had never met a woman in my family who didn't have to work. But in the relationship courses that have faces like ours, we are still telling women, there was a time when you didn't have to work. So then the pinnacle of things is, if I get a man that can do this, 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 and this, and this for me, I don't have to work. Rather than looking at what our situation has been and what kept those families together. You know what? I'm gonna get you. What kept them together. That means that we cannot come from this same perspective, just like what Adrian was saying. We can't do that and expect to be successful. It doesn't mean that no one will be successful. It just means let's come from our paradigm. Let's come from our context. Let's look at what has worked for us rather than looking at what majority culture has done.
Okay, I want to ask Rebecca a question. So earlier we mentioned the scenario, the template of the guy that might be, he's working at McDonald's, but he's the night manager and he's working up to become the store manager. Now you are a CPA and you run your own company. I don't know how much money you make, but I bet you can afford a Birkin bag or whatever that expensive crap is that I never would buy. how does that make you feel as a woman if somebody says, I don't know, I have no idea what you'd be attracted to, and I'm sure, I know you're a good person, so I'm sure that you're not going to judge solely on income, but if the guy in the McDonald's uniform comes up and he's extremely nice to you, what honestly goes through your mind when you're considering whether or not he'd be an adequate mate for you?
I'm a weirdo. I'm a weirdo. So I'm a weirdo. I have been always that girl that don't like guys coming after me. And that is something I've had to change, because in the course of dating over the years, the feedback I've gotten about myself was that I'm too aggressive. If I see a guy that I like, I'm the type of girl that'll put my number in his hand. I paid for many first dates. So I'm the weirdo. I'm probably not the person to ask, but I'll just say this. And again, I'll be the devil tonight. I'm fine with that. I am turning 37 this year. Okay. I have done the hard work. I have laid down my foundation. At this point in my life, any man that is interested would have to be at that same point. And it's just because I'm very ambitious. When I take off, I take off. So I don't want, I've had the issues before in past relationships where I'm making more money than the guy, so he feels inadequate. I've had just all those type of experiences that make me say, like, what do you want me to do? Am I supposed to be the woman that's depending on you? Or am I okay to be independent? And it's not even waving the banner or telling you how educated I am and all this other stuff. It's just, this is me and I'm sharing myself. So I don't want someone that's like, damn, she really put together. I don't think I could compete with this. I'm not trying to compete with anybody. I'm just looking for somebody that is at that more or less same level that we can join forces together. If someone's still in his mother's basement playing PlayStation and he's, working part-time at McDonald's, I'm just not at that stage anymore in my life. And I would appreciate if men in general, no one specifically, would stop telling me that I need to give people a chance because I don't know if I'm missing my blessing. It's like, what the fuck is that? Sorry, excuse my French.
Well, I kind of think it's a matter of being honest. I mean, we talk about honesty, right? Like, I think a person should be honest with themselves about what you really want. Don't let people tell you what you're supposed to want, because I don't think that works. Like I know I wanted Alicia, right? I know exactly what I like, the beauty, the brains, the booty, whatever it is I like. You ain't got no right to judge none of that, right? And because the thing is, if you get to where you're lying to yourself about what you want, then you're going to be sitting there next to somebody you're not even attracted to. You're going to be like, dang, my uncle told me she was a good catch, but maybe he should be laying next to this lady. Like, that's a terrible feeling when you make choices based on what other people tell you to do. I think you need to just be honest and say, look, if you want to get a man that can get you a bag, then that's cool. I mean, just make sure you know what that trade-off is. And also, here's my thought too. I don't think it's so much just about the money. Like from my research, I'm finding like figuring out what women want, I found has been very complex, very difficult, right? It takes time. I had to read books about it. And I don't believe it's just the money. I think that it seems to me that the money is a reflection of other things, like your initiative and your go-gettedness and his intelligence and ambition and all these other things that even if the money wasn't there, those things in themselves would be attractive. I don't know. Does anybody have something to say about any of that? I'm just babbling. I don't want to babble too much. Please.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I mean, it makes sense not thinking about what other people want for you, and even just looking at that statistic, I've seen many women stay in relationships, Black women stay in relationships that are very disrespectful, very toxic, very harmful to them because they thought, oh, I'm not going to ever find a man. I'm not going to get a man. There's a shortage of Black men out here, so I better hold on to this one that I have, thinking that there is no abundance. So there's an abundance, and you can be true to yourself and know yourself and love yourself enough to be able to say no to somebody and to find that mate that does it for you, somebody you have similar values with, someone that you think that you can gel with and build with. Yeah, definitely. I agree, Boyce. Not listening to what other people say is important.
Yeah. Well, everybody who just came in, we're having a great conversation about relationships. And we started off by asking one question, but these are smart people and I don't want to put anybody in the box. But that fundamental question was, does a man have to love a woman more than she loves him in order for the relationship to work? I think we can agree that the answer is probably no, right? Like you can have that 50-50 or even something different from 50-50 in the other direction and still make it work. It seems like because there's so many other variables that come into play. That's what I'm guessing based on hearing everyone here. Would you agree with that?
But it's also a power play, right? Because remember, if you've ever heard the statement before that whoever loves less holds more power in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So if someone is saying, well, I need him to love me more for me to be comfortable in it, she's in effect saying, I want to be the more powerful entity in the relationship.
What? Okay. Yeah, that's a good point he just made, and you see that. I've read on that too that there are power dynamics in a relationship, and the power dynamic can actually flip. In fact, I remember reading, John. I saw your hand go up. I'm gonna call you next. I actually read that the person who dumps the other person first has an easier time walking away from the relationship. So literally, you can have somebody you want to break up with, but if they break up with you first, you'll start to want them back because they walked away from you because you're feeling these abandonment issues. I know Alicia knows all about that. So, John, what's on your mind, brother?
Okay, well, first of all, how do you quantify love? How do you say if one person loves another person more or not? That's the one thing. And another thing, we have to look at the state of the Black community. It's hard to date and relate. Look, it's been a decline of the Black family since the New Deal. The whole middle class is shrinking dramatically. You had mass incarceration. Black wealth is approaching zero by 2050. I seen an infographic on Fox News that said the Black median household is like $17,100 and the white median household is like $171,000. So if we're talking about dating and relating when it comes to our people in this country, we have a lot of things stacked up against us anyway to be trying to base our relationship framework around their ideology. So we just need to be real with ourselves and find you somebody you like and you love, but make sure you like them too. And y'all do what you have to do, whatever works for you to make that relationship work.
I said it just starts with self-love. Like people are staying in relationships far too long when you can't ever repair the relationship anymore. You're walking out hating each other and having to heal from stuff that's not necessarily necessary to heal from. I just think when you love yourself, when you do work on yourself, and I just believe in our community, we just have been taught that, and I know we're talking about men and women, but women have been taught that we have to suffer through a relationship. Like Emily off of Love and Hip Hop with Fabulous. She got the prize now. Like she walking around and he finally flaunting her on social media. But look what you had to go through to get to that. Like you stayed with that. Like we talked about Future and Ciara last week. Thank God Ciara got off the crazy train before he drove her crazy. Emily, he knocked your teeth out. He's been with other women. And now you feel like you want a prize. Why do you think he's a prize after he abused you that way? So we have to love ourselves. Two people in a relationship really have to love themselves enough to know that if this, I have to get out of here. And I said it before, a toxic relationship, if you're in a toxic relationship, you're toxic too. So every time I was in a toxic relationship, I knew I was toxic. So at this age now, when I see toxicity or when I see something that's just not right, I'm okay with that. Like, and so many of us are not, because like whoever said, I'd rather have a piece of a bad man than no man at all. Because you're not healthy to even say that. Like, I'd rather be with a man that'll knock my teeth out and hide it just so I can have a man. Because you're not healthy. We have to learn as Black people that Self-love is healthy, and we have to be healthy in order to be in whole, healthy relationships. And that's one of the things that's lacking in our community, not accepting the fact that we've seen some things and we carry some baggage that we must put down. But it's my baggage. I got to go deal with my baggage. I'm not, and so many of us are expecting a man to deal with our baggage. Well, he put me through this and he put me through that, and you ain't going to do this. You shouldn't be in a relationship if you're going into a relationship with that mindset, and vice versa for the man. So if we had simultaneous healing, women are always healing, only to get broken by a broke man. And not all men are broken, but we tend to gravitate toward a broken man when we're healed because we think we can fix him now. If we had simultaneous healing where men were getting help that they need, black men, and black women were getting help that they needed in the community, we would have whole households. Like, we are tearing each other up because we're not willing to do the work in ourselves to be healthy enough. I'm not staying with toxic girlfriends. You gotta go. Men, you gotta go, because I value my mental health, because it's about our mental health.
So I want to ask Adrian a question. Adrian, when I hear a lot of rhetoric about like I heard what Trey had to say, in terms of talking about when you got to let go of a toxic man, and she mentioned Fabulous, and I guess I don't know anything about Fabulous and Emily, but I guess Fabulous did some terrible things to her, knocked her teeth out, stuff like that. And she talks about abusive behavior on the part of men. What I don't really hear people talk a lot about is abuse that men experience from women. Because it almost seems like it doesn't show up in the same form that it does with men. Like, a woman isn't going to knock your teeth out typically. Now, some might, but most won't, right? But I hear, like, I'll give you an example. Alicia and I, we've debated and tried to figure, we talk a little bit about different things we see online. Like, for example, when Kevin Samuels is talking about relationships, sometimes he's a little bit rough, and he unconventional. His style is, some people love it, some people hate it, but there's a lot of men who say, thank God he's finally telling the truth. He's talking about, and what I'm hearing is pain. I'm hearing from the pain that a lot of men are feeling in their relationships, where they feel that they're being abused, but because men aren't quick to say I was abused, or we're not going to call the police. Police are going to laugh at you. It's hard. We're not as good at sort of expressing that, right? Like, we don't get to carry like a flag saying I'm a survivor of abuse, because that's not what we do. But what forms of abuse do you see that men are experiencing in their relationships that isn't really being talked about enough, if anything at all?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, because typically, statistically, women are actually more domestically violent than men. But what happens is how we view it. We have to look at the data and then begin to piece it apart, and you understand it better. Most of the times, by the time we hear about a man being violent or domestically violent, it has reached a point of extreme violence, right? So extreme violence becomes a punch, a throw, even all the way to death, right? And as unfortunate as that is, but a lot of times women are committing acts of domestic violence. Remember, domestic violence begins at the space of an unwanted touch. Most men don't interpret the behavior or the physicality of women as being domestically violent. So one, I think some men don't know that they're even experiencing domestic violence. Two, it's underreported because of the masculinity and manhood identity thing, right? Because I'm a man, I can't look like I'm getting punked out here, right? So I'm not going to report it. But when women, when you mush his face, put your finger at his temple, when you push him, right? When you throw something at him, all of those are acts of domestic violence. I think what happens with men is, because it doesn't raise to the level of seeming danger, right? Imminent danger, then it doesn't seem as violent, and therefore they don't take it to be domestic violence. But those are acts of domestic violence. By the time the man begins to respond and it's now escalated, now it's, he's being domestic violence. And the other thing about it too is, unfortunately, I've seen it, I've experienced it, and I know if it happened to other people, where women have the ability to do a better job of code switching, right? Where they are first could be very aggressive, and then when law enforcement gets involved, all of a sudden it's, I don't know what happened. How does that? Right. So that unfortunately, and I know Dr. Alicia, obviously in her line of work, similarly deals with that all the time. So that's the truth about that. Women are actually on the lower scale of violence, are more domestically violent than men. Men are more violent on the more more violent on the more violent offenses on the domestic scale of violence.
Well, also, I was thinking also about other forms of violence where nobody hits anybody, right? Like I've seen people accused of being not violent, but being abusive without it hitting anybody, right? Like you'll hear he was emotionally abusive, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't hear a lot of men talk about women being emotionally abusive, but to me, when you get to the point where nobody's doing anything physical, like physical men, we're just naturally stronger. We have the testosterone and all that. But when you're talking about a battle of the mind and the emotion, then everything's equal at that point. I've seen the abuse go in both directions. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, please. What do you want to explain?
I had said it's not equal. Women, women's communication skills are above par.
Yes.
I can't wait to hear what Dr. Alicia says because she's over there.
Yeah, I've seen really painful psychological abuse by women on men, and a lot of men don't see it that way. And sometimes I'll just point it out and say, that's abusive. She was stalking you. That's abusive. She was breaking into your phone. She put a tracker on your car. She's requiring you to check in with her every hour on the hour. She's calling you names. She's yelling at you. She's driving by your house in the middle of the night. That's abusive. And he's like, what? No, I have to tell him, like, right. You can't even go to sleep at night because you don't know if this lady is going to come through the door. I have pointed that out to say this is very poor boundaries. This doesn't work. This is extremely toxic. You can call the police. This is illegal. It's just as bad. Stalking by women has been a huge issue, and I see it a lot in my practice, much more. And very rarely do I see a man being physically abusive to a woman. Maybe I know it's pretty common, but I haven't seen that as much as I've seen psychological abuse. I've seen that tremendously by women on men. Yes.
Mm. Okay, John, go ahead.
Especially you have a lot of women nowadays, they'll deny the father the ability to see their child. They'll call the police on them for no reason, knowing that these police are definitely going to have a more aggressive take towards this black man because they've just shown to do this repeatedly over and over. I've seen so many women, especially I play football. So I'm in a locker room with 100 guys. And I'm looking at it. So I have the window. I'm looking to the window of 199 other guys. And I'm seeing women pour sugar in their car tanks, flatten their tires, bust out their windows, come by their house, do physical damage to their homes, throwing their clothes all out in the street, destroying property. So many different ways that a lot of men just eat it. And a lot of times we just eat it and move on. And it's not, and that's got to change, and that's definitely has to change. But I do want to make just two more quick points. One, people, men and women, I don't care what color you are, in between relationships, detox. Take your time to detox. Some people, they jump from relationship to relationship to relationship, and they carry out. They're in relationship number 4, and they got five relationships worth of baggage that they're bringing into this relationship. You got to take time to detox, and that's the part of loving yourself. Take the time to process what went through, get that person out of your system, take accountability for your part in that relationship, heal yourself, and then once you feel like you're ready to go on to a relationship, do that. Second point I want to make is there are 7 billion people in this world. And people are looking for their forever one. That's a lot of no's, ain't it?
Wow.
So anytime you get into a relationship, just know there's a risk. Both sides are taking risks. There's no other side. Men are not taking more of a risk than women, and women aren't taking more of a risk than men unless they're just making a bad decision. And that will change the degree of risk. However, when it comes to a relationship, like I said, you're looking for your forever one. And there are 7 billion people on this planet. That's a lot of no's.
All right. Well, I love it. Everybody, we were speaking tonight about relationships and and who needs to love who the most in order for it to work. Now, I started with a simple question. Everybody's been talking about it, but y'all know it here. This is for intelligent Black people. So we like to elevate. And I want everybody in here that's listening to walk away a better person, the ability to treat other people better, treat yourself better through time. And one of the things I took away from this conversation is I'm learning, like everybody else is that importance of doing the work. One of the things about relationships I truly believe is that it's not one of those things where you want to be a do-it-yourself kind of person. As time is going on, I look back and I think, my gosh, the insanity of two 22-year-olds thinking that they can figure it all out without any help, right. Without no therapist, without no referees. I know, Adrian, I know that you are a conflict resolution specialist. I think they should all be hiring you, just, people like you, in order to just work through things. Just that ability to communicate or to know how to de-escalate a fight is a science. Like, this is not just some easy stuff. So everybody watching, especially young people, like, pay attention. Like, we're not in our 20s. I don't think anybody's here in their 20s. Y'all look like you're in your 20s, but you're not. We know that, right? So you've learned a few things, and I think everybody who's young, please listen to that. You got to do that. So what I'd like for everybody on the panel to do, and first of all, everybody in the audience, please hit the thumbs up button, share button, subscribe button. We're trying to build intelligent Black media. We can really use your help. Number two, if each of the panelists could maybe give like a quick 90-second summary recap of what we can all just kind of learn from this conversation, what you learned, what we can walk away with. I would appreciate that very much. And I can start with you, Coach Gene and Dr. Dula. And since there's two of you, you can do double time, please.
Yeah. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you for being a part of this amazing panel with these amazing individuals. Thank you so much. If I get anything out of it, especially listening to John and Trey, there is another dimension to relationships. And we do have to give ourselves time to heal. And Dr. Boyce, you're making a good point. We have to educate ourselves. We have to, get educated about skill set and how to unclothe ourselves, dealing with those issues and coming together, building legacy.
Deconditioning, dehuman design, so deconditioning. I just wanted to say, first of all, regarding like what Adrian was just talking about, or no, Dr. Alicia, about, men not knowing what abusive things are. Let's just try to treat each other like humans. And so that starts in the home. And we talk about that all the time with families and individuals at rebuildlegacy.com. Because if I can treat him like a human being, and then I can demonstrate that to my sons, then they can never say that their mama was up in their face. And my husband was like, oh, he doesn't even play this. Even me doing this is a whole issue, because we don't play like that. I'm going to respect you, because if you come for my face, I already know what's going to happen. So how about I don't do to you what I don't want to come back to me. Right. The biggest thing I would say is, we have to figure out what we call it like planets colliding or combining. How can we combine? And we're all individuals. We're not the same. So, this is a human being. Do I feel a connection to this person? There is no one formula. And so we can help ourselves if we stop approaching life in that way regarding our relationships, because you will have to reconnect every once in a while. You'll have to figure it out again. Because am I the same woman you married 27?
Every season. And I love the challenge of trying to figure you out.
Boom!
I love y'all. Oh, I love y'all. I love y'all. I love it.
That's so awesome. Thank you. So, Rebecca Samuels, your final thoughts?
Definitely. I agree with the gentleman that said we need to take time to heal and detoxify between relationships, because I think everyone is jumping from person to person because they don't want to be alone, rather than taking some time themselves to say, hey, you know what is it that I truly want? So I'm not wasting my time or somebody else's time. And I think that's something that both sexes need to do.
Well, I do remember reading something that said, and this is just a little random fact for anybody listening, that the worst thing in the world for you to do is to have a relationship with somebody who's on a rebound. That was one of those things where I consistently read that's an absolute no. It will not work 99% of the time. They claimed, I've never seen it work, because there's something about the fact that part of the reason they may be attracted to you is because you're different from the person they were just with. They don't even really know what they want yet. They just know you're not that. right? Like T.I. said, this ain't that, right? This ain't that, right? That's they're literally on that mode. So be very careful about dating or forming a serious relationship with anybody that's on a rebound, because I don't think people are in their right minds in that situation. So John, Mr. John Harris, by the way, John is on the Black Boss channel. So if you guys want to see John, he does stuff almost every other day with Farmer Brown, the MC, and they actually talk about something really important like black land ownership and agriculture, growing our own food, stuff like that. That's on the blackbosschannel.com. I'll put the URL up on the screen. Everybody should subscribe, because if you want to listen to black men and hear what they have to say, you got to go to the blackbosschannel.com. And actually, Adrian, you're so smart, man. Actually, both of all the guys here, I invite you all to contribute as well. So I think that black men should be heard as well as black women. So that's what that is. All right. So John, your final thoughts.
Well, my final thoughts on tonight is I definitely agree with that. There's no singular answer in how to relate with someone, because you can one person can really have two. Every relationship with every person is going to be different, because we're all different, and we all can, like you said, combine. And the way we combine and how well we do that is going to determine, how successful that relationship is going to be. But I think that everyone, both men and women, we just need to be honest with our intent. If all you're looking for is some booty, say that. The other person, that's all they might be looking for, And if you're looking for a serious relationship, state that, and set your boundaries and work towards that. Other than that, like I said, any relationship, it is a gamble, and it's all about how you play it.
All right. It's all a gamble. It's about how you play it, and be honest with your intentions. Okay. I like that. Okay. Ms. Trey Kearney, your final thoughts.
My final thought is take care of you. Be whole, be healed. Make sure you're accountable for what part of when relationships break down, it's a two-person problem. And so many times we're pointing the finger and blaming the other person instead of being accountable for our part in the breakdown in the relationship. We can never, ever make somebody be with us that does not want to be with us. But I always do self-reflection. And the one thing that I've learned is to get off the crazy roller coaster ride when you see the things. Like, we stayed for so long. We all have the right to get off the ride. You stay as long as you stay, so you can't blame another person. And like John said, if you are hurting, you should not be dating. You should be healing. You should be taking time to love yourself. If you don't want to be alone by yourself, why would anybody else?
Okay. All right. So, Dr. Alicia, ma'am, your final thoughts.
A final thought I have is that I like the piece about self-love. I'm glad we talked about that today. Every relationship we have can really be viewed as a reflection of the relationship that we have with ourselves. And that sets the tone for the right relationship. It rests heavily upon us. So if anything, you got to love yourself.
All right. Love yourself. Self-love. Okay. All right. Adrian Carter, what are your final thoughts, brother?
I think a lot of times the conflict that we have in relationships is centered around how we are using and defining the language, right? There's a lexicon that we've established around relationships, headship and leadership and rulership and self-love. I mean, they're positive parts of it. One of the things I want to leave people with is how people are defining leadership is often misconstrued. It's defined in a way that is a top-down model, a pyramid model. So that means that there has to be someone at the top, someone at the bottom. So when we talk about leadership, who's leading the relationship? Leadership is not gender specific. Leadership is a set of skills. So people keep on misdefining leadership because someone wants to lead. I don't want to lead my relationship in the sense simply because I'm a man and ensure that I'm leading over her because she's a woman. What I want to do is I want to appropriately demonstrate the leadership skill. You're right. You don't have leadership unless you have the skill. Do I know how to communicate effectively? Well, does she know how to communicate effectively? Do I know how to delegate? Does she know how to do that? Time manage, resolve conflict, take initiative. if I'm a person who is a leader, I have to demonstrate the skill for it. And if she's able to demonstrate those same skills, then doesn't that also make her a leader? How about we learn to lead? Because effective leadership allows for the capacity of leadership for others to also be good leaders in that space as well.
Yeah. You know, I love that point. And I think that what you said, Adrian, that inspired a thought when I was thinking about the difference between, say, LeBron James and Tom Brady versus Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. No disrespect to Kobe. I know Kobe is deceased, so I'm not going to say anything negative, but Kobe and Michael they were similar. And I put them in the same category because they were similar and they were really tough, really rigid. You know, like Michael could be a bastard if you stopped him from winning a championship, you know, and that style of leadership did achieve success. But later on, you started to see some flaws in that leadership when he went to the Wizards and guys were kind of rejecting him. Whereas when I see LeBron James and Tom Brady around their teammates are appreciative and grateful, and they're playing better because they're with them, because they're giving them the ball and they want to see everybody succeed. And that style of leadership, that more cooperative style, is one that's certainly more appealing than that dominant, overbearing style, right? And I think that's what I think about when I think about a household, right? Everybody can lead in their own way. I mean, sometimes you can lead just by doing your best, and you got to also know the difference between being the leader and the follower, the teacher and the student, the pilot and the co-pilot, right? You switch back and forth, and again, I guess I'm telling on myself, because that's kind of what we do here. I can't walk into a household with a woman who's a full professor and pretend like I know everything, because that's just not going to be true, right? In fact, it makes me better though when I realize, hey, we got two good brains in the household, so let's figure that out, right? But you know, so what I'll say to everybody here, I will say this though, when I heard that statement, I kid you not, and I have to be honest, I heard it and I said, you know, theoretically, I don't think it's supposed to be true that he's supposed to love her more in order for the relationship to have a chance to work. Because again, it's complex. There are a lot of factors in there, right? You can't just sum it up to one thing. But I think about this. I go back to that point when I said that when I chose to be with Alicia, when I met her, I really literally remember that she was the most beautiful woman I met on the entire campus. She warmed me up with her smile. First thing she did was smiled at me, which made me feel welcome to sit down and talk to her. And then on top of that, she's smart and all these other great things, right? And the thing was that, you know, when people ask me, they would say, well, you know, because I had people come up and say, because they saw when I proposed to her, and it was kind of, you know, we filmed it and put it online because we believe in Black love, and I just believe that we got to honor Black women. Like, we have to proudly, loudly love Black women. I'm a believer in that. And so that's why I shared. It was a little awkward though, because you're like, gosh, how are people going to take this? But I was like, I don't care, whatever, let's just do it. But when people would come and ask me and they'd say, so what made you want to pick her and settle down and want to be with her? And it was like, because I just adore the shit out of this woman. Like I felt like, okay, this is my chance. I'm not gonna mess up. I'm gonna give everything I got. Like, that was my mindset. And so when people say, well, how could I find something like that? I'd say, you know, maybe there's that guy that might be in your friend zone who loves the shit out of you, who worships the ground you walk on. And are you ignoring him in exchange for some other guy who's a little flashier, who doesn't like you that much? I just really think, I'm a big believer for anybody that's looking to settle down, like you're looking for the one and all sorts. Find that person who really adores the hell out of you. Like I think that should be one of the most dominant factors in a relationship, because I know for sure I wouldn't want to be doing all this if I didn't think she adored the hell out of me. You know, because my first thought was, okay, I know how much I adore her, but maybe I put her on a pedestal. Maybe she's going to be a bitch when I get up close. Maybe she's just like a really mean person. You know, I was really thinking this, and she adored the hell out of me. I said, okay, boom, jackpot, we did it. This worked. Let's do it. Let's move forward. Right. So I think those dynamics have to be in play, because if you don't, you run into what I call this the Halle Berry problem. Right. Halle Berry, gorgeous woman, dated all these alpha men who were super sexy, you know, Dave Justice and what was that other guy who had the sex addiction, the singer? You know, thank you. Yeah, like okay, you know, my thought was like, okay, if she's really looking to settle down and have something that lasts forever, why not find that guy, maybe that neurosurgeon that nobody knows about, who thinks Halle Berry's the most gorgeous woman in the world? Maybe that would be a better choice for her if you're really trying to get somebody that's going to really put their best foot forward. Again, but then again, that's my simple-minded thinking. I'm an idiot. What do I know? So I'm gonna just be quiet. So thank you all. I want to say thank you to all the panelists, and I'm gonna bring everybody back like individually because all of you are so smart. And I did a lot of talking. And I apologize for that. And I want to say thank you so much to the audience for joining us. I truly appreciate your time. If everybody could, before you go, please hit the thumbs up button, share button, subscribe button if you have not done that yet. Also, we're going to do this again. We're going to have lots of panels on relationships and all these other topics. And so you'll see everybody here in the future. So thank you all very, very much. Have a good day. And thank you again to the panelists. I appreciate you very, very much. All right.